this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
You know how it's never really about where you're going, it's about who you're going with? The right people can turn any drive into a great memory. That's something Toyota really believes. They design vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who make plans happen and bring everyone together. Inside, everything's built with passengers in mind. Comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that actually works so everyone can relax and enjoy the ride. There's room for the people, room for the stuff, and room for the moments that happen along the way. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at Toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people. This message is brought to you by Apple Card. It's a great time to apply for an Apple Card. You'll love earning unlimited daily cash on every purchase. That includes 3% daily cash when you buy the latest iPhone, AirPods, and Apple Watch at Apple. Through this special referral offer, when you get a new Apple Card, you can earn bonus daily cash. To qualify, you must apply at apple.co/getdailycash. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Offer may not be available elsewhere. Terms and limitations apply.
You're about to listen to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, which originally aired on YouTube. If you'd like to catch the show live this offseason, you can head to the Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LateRoundFF. We'll be live each Wednesday at noon Eastern. Without further ado, here's this week's episode.
Welcome in. David Kitchen alongside JJ Zacharies. And JJ, how are you?
I'm good. I will say, I've been solo parenting since Sunday.
Yes.
Got a 7 and 3-year-old at home, and I've been doing it all alone. My daughter has dance every night. She has dance Monday through Thursday every single night. And so the tough part is, navigating the timing of the dance class, the picking up my son at his school, the just putting it all together. And so I do want to just shout out all the single parents out there who have to do this day in and day out. Fortunately, my wife comes back tonight. So tomorrow it's going to be paradise.
Here's what I know you cannot say. You can't say that you're babysitting.
No,
that is
you don't say you're babysitting. It's your children.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying there are some possibly new parents or parents that are out there. You can't say babysitting about your own children when you're.
No, you are being a parent.
Yes.
Look, I pull my weight, every day. It's another level whenever there's things that, my wife is sort of like the dance mom. Like I do Tuesdays with my daughter for dance, but my wife does the other 3 days. And she's, taking on the dance mom role and stuff and all that. But I still do stuff. It's just that when you have, I don't know how people do it with like 4 or 5 kids. I have no idea. Mr. Tuttle out there with his clan, Roto Pat with his clan.
Oh, yeah.
There's just people out there with lots of children. I have no clue how you're able to juggle all of that. But my week has kind of been like, get my work done during the day, of course. But then, there's a time period like 3:30 to 7 every day to 8 where it's full blown, can't be working because I don't have anyone helping me with the kids. And then at night, I'm just grinding out these prospect profiles.
Yeah. Someone said to us, JJ, I'm not going to say who it was, but they're a parent, but they also said they don't get up until 8:30 a.m.
Yes.
And
yes,
every time I have to get up early.
Someone in the fantasy industry.
Yeah.
That's the only clue we're given. That's the only clue we're given.
Yeah, I'm not saying who it is, but every time I have to wake up early, I'm like, imagine not having to wake up.
What time do you wake up every morning?
6, around 6. This morning
6?
I woke up a little earlier.
Mine's usually mine's 6:30 to 7 usually every day.
Your Eastern time, so you wake up before me. So
in the time frame. Yeah. I mean, it's all relative.
No, kind of. Speaking of prospect guy though, JJ, we had someone ask for the countdown timer. For those that are listening, we've got the little spreadsheet theme going on. We have days until, so like 354 days into the Super Bowl. 57 days until the NFL draft, 197 days until the 2026 NFL season. And JJ, I almost didn't do this because I don't want to get you like anxious before we start.
No, I feel good. I feel good. I'm confident. I feel good.
All right. 19 days until the prospect guide launches.
Yeah, I can tell you guys where I'm at.
Yeah.
In that process. I feel like people might be curious about like how much of it do I have done? The year 2 profiles have been written for a really long time. All of the bulk of the guide at the beginning, like the intro stuff, like what goes in the models and understanding the models and all that, that's all written and done. We have a new tight end model that's amazing. Brandon worked on it very, very hard. I was kind of overseeing it over the last month. And we got to a really, really great place. It's very cool. There's an example in the guide about the tight end model that I think might blow people's minds a little bit, but I'll save that for people who are digging in and reading it. But with the profiles, we have Gadula's managing the tight end stuff. I'm doing the running back and wide receiver ones as I usually do. There's 46 wide receivers. There's 20 running backs, and I have half the running backs done. I'm waiting on some of the running back stuff because I want to see, for comp purposes and speed score matters in the model for running backs more. I want to see that kind of thing happen at the combine. And so I'm waiting for half of so I have 10 of the 20 running backs done. And then I have, I think 31 of the 46 wide receivers done. So at this point, and I do like the best players, and then I get into the lower tier guys, like the day 3 guys. The day 3 guys, you can get through them pretty quickly because there's usually you're trying to find like redeemable traits with these players, analytical traits. Some of them have them and they're interesting. The ones who don't, it's really just, hey guys, realistically, there's like a 0.2% chance that this guy is even rosterable, in Dynasty at this point. So, I'm not going to like spend a ton of time digging into this when I know in the end the chances of that person being relevant. And not only that, but all of these profiles get rewritten, or the majority of them do, when the NFL draft hits. And so if one of these players has surprising draft capital or something, or goes to a team where his immediate opportunity looks really good, I'll rewrite it and I'll update it. But a lot of those like lower tiered guys, day 3 wide receivers, late day 3 undrafted wide receivers, it's you guys will read as you go through, and this is the same way in every guide every year. As you go through and you reach like the guys that have like a zap score of 20 or 15 or whatever, I just start throwing in sarcasm and a lot more jokes and stuff.
You got to fill up that space somehow.
Yeah.
Someone, the consigliere asked, but is the color palette ready?
Actually, no, it's not yet.
It's not. However, JJ, I didn't even get to tell you this. This morning, I researched how to do it automatically with a script, and I am so excited.
Ooh, yeah. For those who don't know, we use InDesign for
the Adobe InDesign, and I'm the hex code palette RGB guy. That's all. I'm just the one providing the splash of team colors, and that's pretty much what I do. Make sure the fonts.
That's not true. You're doing a lot of them. You're doing a lot of marketing work for it.
Well, yeah, but in the actual guide, I feel bad because
the actual deliverable, it's a lot of that. Yeah.
Sure. It's just, don't worry. I'm not doing any analysis. Not sneaking in Eli Stowers profile and adding anything. That's all. It's all JJ. It's all Brandon Gadula. And we'll have author pages this year as well, because we do have Brennan helping with some of the tight end stuff and the modeling. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about early best ball, JJ. We have early best ball that has already started. And so what better way when people are doing their best ball or their rookie grind, year 2 grind, talking about free agency, to draft early best ball on DraftKings. Talked to someone yesterday. They said it's not, I don't want to say like easy mode over on DraftKings, but it's easier than other sites right now for early best ball. So
I mean, it's a little softer. Yeah, I experienced that last year with, I don't want to say that my top 50,
no, you can.
Millie team was the result of a softer rooms in general. But I do think that you like, I had better results on DK than I have like max entering and doing more on DK than other platforms and sites. I think a lot of it is just their audience is different. There's people coming over from the sports betting world that want to give it a try and such. But there's a lot of skill involved in getting the right kind of team, just knowing how many positions to draft and knowing which players to get and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great platform. I really fell in love with it last year. I'm excited to, play more on DraftKings this year.
This is early best ball. So it's $1 million in total prizes. So that's a lot for early best ball, and it will stop like when the draft happens.
Right.
So you're drafting players that you don't know exactly where they will be going. You're drafting off of talent. And again, if you're purchasing the prospect guide or you're listening to the show, then feel like you already have a leg up. And if you know best ball, it's no waiver wires, no roster management. It's a bigger roster than what you're typically used to, and that just takes your optimal score each week, JJ.
Yeah, keep in mind that the prospect guide, because people are worried about, what if he doesn't get this draft capital, whatever. And I get all that. Like, we're not going to know until the draft actually happens, but NFL mock draft database inputs from a draft capital perspective are in the prospect guide. Like, that's the draft capital input for the player's scores in the pre-draft version. So you at least get a general idea. And I've been using NFL mock draft database for a few years now. And yeah, I mean, like, it's not going to be like, there are guys like Pat Bryant last year ended up going a lot higher than expected, or, Isaac Tesla or whomever. And then the opposite happens too. Like Alec Iamaner at one point was a second round pick on NFL mock draft database, but then he ended up being a day 3 guy. That kind of stuff is going to happen. But, majority of these players are pretty on point with where their draft capital sits. So the guide and the scores for these players should be able to help you out in these early best ball contests.
And after the guide launches, also we'll have some rankings for our members in April. So before the draft, we'll also have some live streams. So make sure that you're hanging out here, sticking around. And with that being said, JJ, you ready to hop into today's news?
Let's do it.
Today's fantasy news.
All right, let's start with a little bit of a somber note. You mentioned it on the podcast this week, JJ, but Rondell Moore, RIP. I talked about it on yesterday's Swolecast as well. And it's just like Peter Overzet was talking about. He was such a guy that was kind of like in our circle too, like Rondell Moore was, like a guy that we had been researching, who we were excited about. And regardless of what happened on the field, we like the people that are interested in dynasty and talent and just raw ability. Really liked him from the get-go.
Yeah, crazy production profile at Purdue. I mean, absolutely insane early career and age-adjusted production. But yeah, I mean, like, it's an incredibly, incredibly sad moment for sports, for the NFL. I mean, anytime something like this happens, it's just incredibly sad. And, I don't want to speculate, like we shouldn't speculate as to, why this happened, right? Yeah. Like, I think it's very clear that, mental health is a very real thing. And unfortunately, some people get to that point where they feel like that's the only answer. Yeah. And I think it's important that if you're listening to this right now, it's not the only answer. And there are people and places and things that where you can go to seek help. And as I said on the show, and I mean it, my email's open too. You can find that on the website. So it's just sad. Like it hit me for sure. Yeah. I didn't know him or anything. It's just one of those things where you read, Hollywood Brown's tweets, or AJ Green was sending some tweets out about how they FaceTime every week, and they have there's so many people that are impacted by this. And it's just a really sad situation overall. I said this on the show yesterday. It's a really difficult thing, just to be transparent with you guys. Like, I care deeply about this kind of stuff. I care deeply about making sure that you guys don't think that I'm viewing these players as just, digits and numbers in a spreadsheet. Yeah. These are real dudes who are living just very normal lives. And, fame and money isn't going to necessarily solve and cure all of their problems. AJ Brown's talked a lot about that with the mental health stigma of how people view, athletes and how they're sort of untouchable. And it's like, oh, how could you have any problems if you're making millions of dollars a year? It's very deeply important for you guys to know that I'm thinking and internalizing all of that kind of stuff. And I try really, really hard to make sure that that's being portrayed and talked to you. Now, I know that my podcast is an escape for people to get away from all the craziness of their everyday lives. Just don't think that means that I'm not paying attention to what's going on in our everyday life and the important stuff in our everyday life. And the important stuff is love and life and friendship and relationships. And so it's a sad thing overall. I hope that you guys, took that from the show yesterday. And it's this weird dynamic where I'm giving advice. I'm doing analysis. I'm talking about this stuff. And then something like this happens, and I still have to do my job, but I do want to pay respects to him as a human and as a man. And then at the same time, people need to know that that's not the only answer for them if they're in that state of mind.
Yeah. Sobering reminder, just talk about the Hollywood Brown stuff. Just when we see an athlete get injured, we're obviously like looking at it from kind of a selfish lens of like how it affects your team or what role it opens up for someone else. But man,
the grind for them.
When you see they're talking about their livelihood and just the emotional toll that it takes, definitely a sobering reminder just of how physical and violent that the game is that we love. But again, he was like the videos of him at Purdue lifting and like
he was so good. Like, I mean, I look, the only thing that was against him from like an analytical perspective as like a prospect and stuff was his size. But his production he's got one of the best age-adjusted production profiles out of college that I've ever seen. It's crazy. And from everything that everyone said and what we've read, like he was a great teammate, a great person. He's got that tweet. It's just so sad. He's got that tweet of him buying his home, the home for his mom. That's like the last tweet he sent like years ago, or because he wasn't very active on Twitter and stuff like that. It's just that, because when stuff like this happens, there's this ripple effect of the community and his close friends and family. And you just sit there and you are just feeling for them as deeply as you possibly can. And that's where, it's just sad. It's horrible.
So we'll transition from that to Combine Week. It's not like an easy transition.
There's never an easy transition.
Yeah, but we'll just say that, he was a guy that performed well, and now we're looking at other guys that are performing well and who are working out, not working out. And that this week is Jordan Tyson. He is not working out this week.
Yeah.
And we have news that Makai Lemon and Carnell Tate are participating in drills. So where are you on Jordan Tyson right now? Because he is falling down mock draft boards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really care that much about what other people think about him as a prospect, right? Yeah. I'm going to go by what my research and analysis is saying first and foremost. Now, I shouldn't say that I just ignore other people's analysis totally. The person I talk to with wide receivers most, because I have a personal friendship with him and we text all the time about it this time of year, is Matt Harmon. And Harmon isn't as high as I am on Jordan Tyson. And that at least gets me to say, like, my goal is not to just say, listen to the model no matter what. My goal is to give you the best analysis I can. And the model is not always going to be right. I will say that more often than not, when I've gone against what the model is saying, it's bit me, right? And it's been the wrong decision to make. And so I'm trying to just I'm right now, like, I'll just say it, like pre-draft, this first iteration of the prospect guide that's going to go out March 16th, Jordan Tyson is going to be in more than likely in the legendary performer category with Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon in the elite producer category. But I think there's a real chance because of the injury stuff and the more subjective things that the model won't capture, and the fact that his draft capital could fall, right? Could be lower than expected. I'll probably still have him at wide receiver 1, but in the same tier with those other wide receivers. And those two other wide receivers I like a lot. I mean, I think that, people oftentimes will hear you, the thing that I don't like about prospecting in this time of year and like how things, unfold in the end when we look back is that, if Jordan Tyson flames out or if he does really, really well, it's like my prospecting season hinged on that one thing, which is absurd. It's one singular outcome for one singular player. When I'm analyzing, like I said, 67 different running backs and wide receivers in this draft class. There's a greater and bigger picture here. I understand that that's going to be, a top 6, top 7, whatever rookie draft pick and such. So obviously we want to get it right. But I do think that Tyson's profile can go in different directions. I'm just telling you right now that objectively he has the best age-adjusted production because of what he did that third season off of his big injury. So, injury stuff is definitely a concern. The fact that he's not testing and doing things because of that is a concern. Like, I'm not, just going to ignore that. But I think that's also why we have tiers and we can say, okay, instead of him being like this clear, tier 1 kind of player, I'll throw him in with 2 other incredibly good wide receivers.
I am excited that it seems like people are at least competing in the drills. I hope that they're doing the 40 time. Like, I want Lemon to do the 40 time. Jeremiah Love, though, participating in drills and do it. Like, that's awesome.
Which is big because we need a lot of those high end running backs recently have not, like Ashton Genty. We didn't see do that.
Bijan didn't, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, like, I want to see what Love can do. And not only that, I've talked about how Love, to me, like, I don't think he's going to reach Ashton Genty from a prospecting perspective in the ZAP model. Yeah. Because his receiving numbers aren't quite there. Now, sure, you can make the arguments that if he were in any other system or whatever, I get all that, guys. But his receiving numbers, for what the model looks at, they're not quite to where like a Genty was, because if Genty's like second to last year, or Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs, especially, like Gibbs was one who had crazy receiving numbers. But there's a chance that we see Love look better in the model if he does go crazy. Like, a player like him running the 40 means that a good 40 time is about to come. Yeah. Or at least a good speed score, right? Otherwise, why would he be running, And so I'm very excited to see what he can do, because if that speed score jumps up, which is weight adjusted 40 time, then there is a chance that he has a better score than what I've kind of been talking through on the shows and stuff. I mean, he's an elite player. He'll be the 101 in your rookie drafts, unless you want to go Mendoza. But I think, I still think that Love is probably the safer bet, just because we know the volatility exists there at quarterback, not nearly as much at running back. So it's not going to change that. It just will change how he's kind of viewed within the context of running backs from previous classes.
Yeah, for sure. I want to see what his rating is. Like, I just want to know what Love is. And JJ, I want you to show me.
I can't believe you just did that.
In the prospect guide.
It's good.
Right.
It's good.
Tag, you're it. We have franchise tags.
I like that you let that sit. You let it so that the audience, the laugh track behind us could really
either laugh track or just shaking their heads and logging
shaking
off.
their heads for sure.
Kyle Pitts, though, we talked about this last week that he could be tagged, and he was by the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah,
good tight end offense with Stefanski. I think that Kyle Pitts showed us last year that he's better than what people generally thought. I think that there's still some limitations to his game, but he's from a fantasy perspective, he's the kind of tight end that we want. He's athletic, he's big, he can see high target shares, and we just need him to be deployed a little bit more in the red zone.
He's had an up and down career, man.
He really has. I mean, like
how he ended and the Arthur Smith stuff in there.
So much of it, though, with Kyle Pitts has been expectations, and people setting like absurdly high expectations for him, which, to be fair, I get it, because he's, if you look at like the ZAP model or, how he just was viewed as a prospect coming out. Yeah. Like the expectation should be high, but he's been a really good tight end to start his career overall.
All right. Not so easy breezy for Breece Hall, because apparently if they don't extend him or trade him for at least a third, according to their Jets GM, then they are going to tag him. And that's tough.
Weren't they off? Were they looking for a second in season? Is that the difference here? Because how could they have not gotten a third for him in season when we know teams are going to be a little bit more desperate because there's situations where that calls for it? I think wasn't it maybe it was the fourth and third difference for the Chiefs in particular, but there was a report about that. But regardless, Breece Hall, it sucks, man. Breece Hall is a really good running back, and he's stuck in this miserable situation. And I said it on our Discord, but I don't think there's a coach in the NFL, even in the last 5 to 10 years, that has put me on tilt more than Aaron Glenn. He just, everything that he says just tilts me. And Breece Hall being attached to him for another year is just really frustrating.
All right, giddy up, Javonte wants to be a Cowboy, baby. Javonte Williams 3-year extension.
Yeah, good for him, man.
$24 million dollars. Where does that put you on Javonte stock heading into next season?
I think he's a solid, relatively volume dependent. Like I haven't done any rankings. Obviously, I would assume he's going to be in like RB2 range. Like I have a hard time. I already did the top 10. Earlier this offseason. I don't think he would crack the top 10. I don't think he'll crack RB1 status, but he was good after contact last year, kind of back to his earlier career numbers. He was a good prospect coming out. I liked him. But I do, I think that the idea of Jaden Blue, not Jaden Blue, the idea of Jaden Blue makes sense for Dallas, getting a dynamic complement to Javonte Williams. And that could cap his ceiling a little bit if they go that route this offseason. But I think Javonte is at least like a solid. My only thing is that if he does, get into more of like the dead zone area from a redraft perspective, that's usually the kind of profile I don't want to go heavy towards. His receiving efficiency was not good last year. And so that would scare me a little bit. But as of today, right now, let's celebrate Javonte Williams. Congratulations on kind of turning your career around down there in Dallas.
Did exactly what you want to do as someone who goes somewhere, go to Dallas, get a 3-year, $24 million deal. Free agency starts next week. And JJ, we've already got Kirk O'Chain's part 2 theories about Kirk Cousins. He's going to be released. And now what's going to happen?
Yeah, where are people thinking that he's going to go? Minnesota.
Minnesota is one of the kind of places that people have thought about. It makes a lot of sense.
Minnesota makes a ton of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if he goes to Minnesota, and I wouldn't be shocked if he starts for Minnesota, if that were to happen. The free agency thing, I had that epiphany earlier this week, and I messaged you and Brandon, but I was like, usually the prospect guide goes out a week after the combine. This year it's 2 weeks after the combine because we have more content that we're delivering to you guys. And so the thing is, though, is that I write all these year 2 profiles and free agency starts around that time. So in the past, I would release the guide and free agency hadn't started yet. And then you could see my pre-free agency takes on these players. But now I'm going to have to update some of these year 2 profiles based on what happens in free agency, which might not be a bad thing in the end from like a, more up-to-date content kind of thing. Cause there's like that dead period then in April where nothing's really happening, but at least now you're going to get some updates. But there are some players like RJ Harvey, for instance, or Woody Marks. RJ Harvey is the one in particular where I've been talking about him being a sell for the last month or so in Dynasty. And the prospect guide, is echoing that because it's coming from me. And there's all these reports about how they might draft somebody or like somebody higher than we expect, or get one of the higher end running backs, in free agency because J.K. Dobbins is no longer a Bronco. So like, I wish I could be early, but if you're listening, this is why you listen to the podcast, during the offseason. I do think that something is going to happen to that backfield. Maybe it ends up being a good thing for Harvey, but because it's not like a big investment. But right now they're sitting with Harvey, Tyler Bidet, and Jaleel McLaughlin. And it's very hard to imagine that a team with Super Bowl aspirations is going to go into, and a team that uses their running backs as much as Denver does, is going to go into next season with that trio in their backfield.
All right. There is a big time Malik Willis steam up people's draft board, whatever you want to call it, free agency boards and dynasty draft boards. Like, I feel like some people have, he's not on a lot of dynasty rosters, like Superflex dynasty rosters. That's how far he has fallen. And now he could be a starter next year.
Yeah. I mean, he
the
should
Browns.
He at least he had people had dropped him at some point in those Superflex leagues. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Not like now. Well, and I'm also thinking some of it in like best ball Superflex.
Oh, where people. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would assume that most competitive Superflex leagues, he's especially because he got a start this year.
Right. The ones that have moves during the season for sure. Yeah. But the Browns have already reported they might go. They're looking at Willis as well as Ty Simpson. With the limited quarterbacks in this year's draft, especially, get ready to learn Malik Willis QB1 next season. JJ.
Oh, he's definitely going to be starting somewhere next year. And he's definitely going to be a late round fantasy target of mine because of the rushing ability. The problem is that, like, I saw the report that Arizona is really keen. That would destroy Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson. Maybe destroy is too harsh of a word, but look, like Trey McBride is awesome, but we also have to be realistic that he is a volume dependent player, as really good players generally are. But like when Malik Willis is under center, you're not going to get nearly as much volume. Arizona is coming off a season where they led the NFL in pass attempts. I mean, they were the pass heaviest team in the league last year. And now you're going to go to Malik Willis, where that's more than likely not going to happen, just because we've seen that happen in the past with mobile quarterbacks. So I don't want him to go to Arizona. Could he go to, like, Miami would kind of work from a fantasy perspective because, Waddle's still there. They're thinking, I mean, I've seen the rumors with Waddle too, but Waddle
said
there.
cap. He said cap.
What's that?
He's like the rumors that he wants to leave. He put a cap emoji and quoted that. So he's saying that's a lie.
Well, but the thing is that at least in Miami, you can funnel targets. Like Jalen Waddle could see a 31% target share and no one would blink based on who's there right now. So that kind of situation would be good. I mean, you can go to Cleveland. It's not like there's much. You can just dump it off to Harold Fannin all day. So yeah, I mean, like, he's going to get a starting gig. He's going to be mobile. We saw in a good system, good environment in Green Bay what he could do. So yeah, I'm excited to see where he lands.
AJ Brown not guaranteed to be back with the Eagles next year, according to Nick Sirianni.
Not surprising, but yeah, I mean, I think that there was a slight drop off last year with AJ Brown. I think we're on that side of his career. So the fact that these GMs, which by the way, I think GMs are pretty open at the combine, with the way that they think about it. So the fact that, like, even like Ryan Poles, I think, said that they were open to trading DJ Moore, like they're just saying these things. And so with AJ Brown,
it might be a game, but they're saying it out loud at least.
Sure. I mean, like, the fact that it's even like part of their conversation.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. When he's under contract, but the AJ Brown stuff, I think that the Eagles are a smart organization. They know that he's on this other side of his career at this point. And now would be the time to try to maximize that value. I think that a team like New England makes a lot of sense, but he did not get along at the time with Mike Vrabel. Did you see that one clip where AJ Brown was saying, I can't remember what show it was. It was a podcast, but he was saying that he would sit in meetings with Vrabel and he would just say, I hate Mike Vrabel. And he would write it down like he was taking notes, but he was just saying, I hate Vrabes.
Brother, I lived it as a Titans fan. I
know, but I'm just saying, like, he's very open about how he was kind of immature and not in his right, mindset when he was in Tennessee. So maybe, I mean, that it's a great fit from like a real football perspective, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that'll go. I do think though that he's not the same AJ Brown that he was 2 years ago.
Buffalo Bills, great fit. Some are saying as well. All right, Joe Mixon. I don't know if he's mixing it up or not, because apparently he is still day to day. I don't know. It's such a weird situation. I asked this yesterday, but do you think Joe Mixon plays professional football again? I
don't. Just based on what's going on here. I mean, we were pretty early on that last summer with the Mixon stuff, which I was happy about. And that got us onto Woody Marks and best ball and stuff. I think that we're already like, they're already talking about maybe getting a big free agent back. That's like, Woody Marks is one of the classic reasons and classic players of what I talked about before, where Zap model scores at running back are more predictive of year 2 to 4 success than year 1 PPR points per game. Now, the Zap model didn't mind Woody Marks, to be clear, because he had a decent receiving profile and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think Marks is a bad player, but his stock is going to tank if they get like Kenneth Walker or something, if they go out
or Jadarian Price.
Yeah. Whoever the case may be. Right. Yeah. And so, be aware of that within the dynasty market right now, but no, I don't think, I mean, at this point, I don't know why we'd feel confident that Mixon's going to just all of a sudden play. I've never seen reporting. That's not reporting. The reporters are doing what they can, but never seen teams talk so oddly about an injury in my life.
Yes, it's wild.
I mean, they're saying like, I think he had surgery over the off season, but or during the season, but I'm not like, you think, how do you not
the
know?
The thing was crazy.
Yeah. It's weird. It's just a weird situation in general. I mean, I hope he's okay, but I'm not very optimistic that he's going to find the football field anytime soon.
You know how it's never really about where you're going? It's about who you're going with. Like, the destination could be totally average, but if the right people are there, it becomes a great memory. Toyota really gets that. Toyota designs vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who bring everyone together and somehow make the drive part of the fun. There's room for all the stuff that comes with togetherness: luggage, golf clubs, camping gear, plus comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that lets everyone relax. And Toyota's lineup makes it easy to find your match. The RAV4 is perfect for everyday adventures. The Grand Highlander brings serious space for up to 8 with generous legroom and expansive cargo space. The Highlander also has space for up to 8. It's ready for big moments and spontaneous ones, balancing style and flexibility. And the Sienna is built for everyday life: carpools, road trips, snacks, spills. And it even has a built-in vacuum for when things get a little too messy. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people.
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Today's data.
All right, JJ, we got some breakout scores over 50 in this year's class.
Yeah, so this is a lot smaller than last week's table, where I talked about yards per team, adjusted yards per team play at running back, and I had literally every running back in this year's class. Breakout scores more proprietary than the adjusted stuff that I do with yards per team play. And it's also a big driver within the model. So I don't want to give away too much for people who are, supporting and purchasing the draft, the prospect guide. But I will say this. So breakout score itself is based on receiving yards per team pass attempt. And what it does is it looks at every player's season in college, and it'll say, okay, this guy had this receiving yards per team pass attempt prorated for games played, minimum 6 games played. It takes that number, it then adjusts that number for strength of schedule. And then there's kind of like levels to it. I don't want to call them thresholds because that's not exactly how the model looks at it, but there's a range. So like if a player has a 3.3 receiving yards per team pass attempt rate, which is absurdly high. Okay. Anything over 3 is really, really good. Over 2.5 is pretty good. Over 2, you should be getting. Under 2, you're like, is this guy good? And so, and if let's say a guy had a 3.3 receiving yards per team pass attempt, and that was adjusted for strength of schedule. Okay. And that player did that at 20 years old. That's absurd. He's going to have probably a 99th percentile breakout score because it's a really, really good combination of factors. But the cool thing about breakout score and what differentiates it from other breakout metrics like breakout age will say, okay, this guy hit this dominator rating threshold at this age. So he broke out at this age, nothing more. That was his breakout age. Doesn't matter what he does after that. He broke out here. That's all that matters. But what breakout score does is that it can still reward players who progress through their careers and get better numbers down the line. Now, if they have a crazy high adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt as like a sophomore, they're probably not going to improve that score based on what they do as a junior and a senior because that score is just so high. So Jordan Tyson is a third-year guy. When he got his crazy numbers in 2024, he wasn't going to do much to change his breakout score in 2025, just the way the metric works. With that being said, a player like, who doesn't do that much through the first 2 years of his career, but in the final 2 years, he really, really blows up. He can still look good within breakout score. You see right here on this list where the list of players, honestly, aside from Eric McAllister, are the top wide receivers in this year's class for the most part, right? These are guys who are over 50. This is like a 70th percentile or better breakout scores. You have Jordan Tyson with a 99th percentile. He's at a score of 95.1. Eric McAllister, who I talked about on the show earlier this week, or I guess it dropped yesterday. And then if someone's listening to this on the feed, it dropped on Tuesday. But Eric McAllister from TCU had a score of 75, which is a 91.7 percentile breakout score. Now, breakout score in the model itself works in conjunction with draft capital. So players that go on day 3, their breakout score is not nearly as significant as players who go in like the top 100, first round, et cetera, et cetera. Historically, breakout score alone with top 100 picks is basically as predictive as draft capital alone, right? So you can ignore draft capital and just look at breakout score. It's just as predictive with top 100 picks. So top 100 picks here, Jordan Tyson, obviously, Mekhi Lemon, who's 3rd in breakout score in this class, Carnell Tate, who's 4th, Casey Concepcion, who I've seen people on Twitter, on social media say that analytics folks don't like Casey Concepcion because, he never had like a maxed out season, like a crazy high yards per route run season. I think he maxed out at like 2.25, which is fine, but not great. His receiving yards per team pass attempt had some question marks. Guys, that's not how any good modeler and analytical person should be looking at this stuff. There's age adjusted stuff you should be looking at, schedule adjusted. And with Casey Concepcion, he was productive all 3 years in college. So he's being rewarded for that with a breakout score that ranks in the 77th percentile. Like he's a good prospect. He's a fringe elite producer within the model. And then lastly, it's Elijah Surratt, who is a little bit controversial, I think, just because some people think he has like separation issues and such. I'm probably more pro than con with Surratt. He has a really good breakout score. He got better every year of his collegiate career. Crazy journey for him. He started at St. Francis as a 0-step recruit. Yeah. Then he goes to James Madison. And we had a conversation on Discord yesterday. And this is why I think people would love the Discords, because I just hop in and we just have these conversations. But there was talk about Surratt being tied to Mendoza and that being a big reason that he had such a big year this past year. Sure. I mean, like quarterback play is going to matter. He didn't play with Mendoza throughout college. It was last year. And so like, yes, last season looks good, but he had 2 other seasons in his 4 years where he was over an adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt of 2.5. And there were only 2 other wide receivers in this class who did that. Jordan Tyson being one of them. And so I think Elijah Surratt is a really interesting prospect, a solid prospect. And breakout score definitely shows that.
Yeah. Concepcion, as we say, he passed the eye test when you watched him play. I mean,
he just drops the ball a lot. That's the problem with him. Yeah, but I don't care about drops nearly as much as other people do.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say about breakout scores and stuff, because someone's saying, did JJ say breakout scores don't matter for day 3s? They like I said, this model is trying to predict and project and forecast how well players play during the first 3 years of their career. Okay. By doing that, or in doing that, it's looking at history, because that's how it can learn and look at what's gone on historically to figure that out. And if you look at day 3 wide receivers, there aren't many of them that have been good in general. And so if there aren't many of them that be good in general, it's not going to overweight that stuff to be like, hey, Puka Nacua was really, really good on day 3. So therefore, other people who have similar profiles as Puka Nacua, we got to boost them up into the elite producer category, because that's how that's called overfitting. And like, that's just not what you want to do when it comes to modeling. Not only that, if you look at like round 4 is still, you get some correlation with breakout score and draft capital and such with these wide receivers. When you get into round 5, round 6, round 7, man, it's a crapshoot. It's a total dart throw situation where draft capital doesn't even, like, I don't care at all if a guy's a 7th round pick or a 5th round pick. I genuinely do not care because of what we've seen historically. And that's why it's a little bit harder to model those players. It's a combination of like, draft capital not mattering, production profiles not mattering as much. And then on top of that, there's only like 2 or 3 guys that hit from those rounds to begin with. So that's why the model says what it does. And that's why I care so much more about top 100 picks, because that's where the money's made in fantasy football.
Joe Bondi also said, I'm still at the who stage with rookie names.
I feel you.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, unless it's a well-known guy like Surratt. I mean, obviously played for Indiana, so if you watch those, but like Eric McAllister,
no one. I mean, but here's the thing.
I thought it was like Kevin's little brother, in Home Alone. Like I did not know who that was, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember playing it.
Here's a really good thing for people to do to learn the class is to write a 200-page No, I'm just kidding. It's to go to NFL Mock Draft Database and just look at the consensus big boards to see where these players are projected to get drafted, and then you're like, oh, I didn't realize that Deion Burks, who I didn't know that much about because I don't watch college football a ton. But like Deion Burks, for instance, is projected to go potentially day 2. And so then you're like, oh, who is this guy that no one's really talking about that much, at least probably on fantasy podcasts and stuff? Well, I dug into it for the prospect guide. His analytical profile is horrendous. Like, I don't really know why he's being projected as a day 2 guy. Or like Antonio Williams, right, out of Clemson. It's like, all right, he's a day 2 pick. Being projected that way. What kind of wide receiver is he? That's what the prospect guide is kind of there for, is to tell you the kind of archetype that these guys are and whether or not their analytical profiles are good. And if we've seen players in history that are like that guy. The 2 guys that I mentioned, the model's not super, super high on, but you can get a good, read on these names by just looking at big boards, honestly. And then just go to their college reference page and just see the raw production that they had, and then see if you want to dig in more, you can look at receiving yards per team pass attempt. You can look at all, go to PFF and get a subscription there and get some cool yards per route run numbers. But yeah, I mean, like I was in that phase literally a month ago, learning these guys. And then I just learned them because I have to write profiles I say have to. I'm blessed to write all of the profiles for these guys.
Privileged to, yes, for sure.
The late round main event.
All right. I have the privilege of unveiling the first year 2 wide receiver journey comps. And again, we went into it last week, so we don't have to rehash it, especially with the time crunch that we have. But there is no particular order with this group.
Correct. And again, journey comps are looking at ZAP scores for these players, year 2 model scores for these players, and finding guys who went through a similar journey. Okay. And so what I'm giving you is not their top 3 comps. I'm giving you a low, median, and high comp for each of these guys based on how they performed as prospects and then how they performed as year 1 players. We'll start with our boy, friend of the show.
Yes.
Tedero McMillan, T-Mac. He gets a low end comp of Jordan Matthews. Which by the way, it's fitting that you're wearing the Vandy hat.
J-Matt.
Yeah. J-Matt, I don't think he was a good prospect, and he actually had some spikes in his NFL career. It just wasn't.
He just was a little slow. He was a little slow. He had hands though. Boy.
T-Mac is not the same kind of player as that. His median outcome is Devontae Smith. His high end outcome is Justin Jefferson. Okay. The similarities for these guys aren't unbelievable. The scores, but T-Mac is a really good player. Like, I'm very in on T-Mac. I think he's going to have a great career. The only question I have is more situation, with Bryce Young and what that offense is really going to be able to provide for him. But the only rookies to clear a 25% target share and a 1.8 yards per route run since 2011. And he was a decent amount above that, but it was OBJ, Mike Evans, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, BTJ, Neighbors, Drake London, Chris Olave, T-Mac, and then Kelvin Benjamin's in there too. So that's a really good group to be part of.
Yeah. This
is my favorite T-Mac stat though, that I have in the year 2 write-up for him in the prospect guide. His first down share was 32.4% last year. So 32.4% of their first downs went to Tedero McMillan. That was the 4th highest mark in year 2 model history at wide receiver. The only players who are better, Malik Neighbors, Odell Beckham, and Puka Nacua. So I think the only thing stopping Tedero McMillan at this point is situation. I think that he's hitting the higher end of his prospect profile outcome. So he's in a good spot.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Is Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, I think that people probably are dismissive of Higgins because, it wasn't like he was like a staple in fantasy football, but the year 2 model doesn't totally mind him. He's, these are the top 6 players in the year 2 model. Again, no particular order. You can kind of probably project what the order is and what the scores are, but regardless, he had a respectable enough rookie season, 1.45 yards per route run, a 0% catch rate over expected. He was better than both Christian Kirk and Xavier Hutchinson in yards per route run, EPA per target, catch rate over expected, all while having an ADOT over 12 yards. So he was seeing down the field looks. So he was able to do all that stuff, down the field and having a more comprehensive, depth with his, with each target. He reached an 80% route share 3 times last year. In those 3 games, 11.9, 10.3, and 13.4 PPR points per game. Now, that's not going to win you leagues, but as a rookie, with a very questionable offensive line and a questionable quarterback, I think that Jaden Higgins had a pretty solid year. I don't think that he's a stud. His low comp is Dorial Green Beckham. Don't think we're going to hit that. His median one was Michael Pittman. And then his high end one was Devontae Adams. I think a Michael Pittman like career, maybe without the consistent volume, is definitely in play for Jaden Higgins.
You know how it's never really about where you're going? It's about who you're going with. Like, the destination could be totally average, but if the right people are there, it becomes a great memory. Toyota really gets that. Toyota designs vehicles around real life and real people. The ones who bring everyone together and somehow make the drive part of the fun. There's room for all the stuff that comes with togetherness. Luggage, golf clubs, camping gear, plus comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that lets everyone relax. And Toyota's lineup makes it easy to find your match. The RAV4 is perfect for everyday adventures. The Grand Highlander brings serious space for up to 8 with generous legroom and expansive cargo space. The Highlander also has space for up to 8. It's ready for big moments and spontaneous ones, balancing style and flexibility. And the Sienna is built for everyday life. Carpools, road trips, snacks, spills. And it even has a built-in vacuum for when things get a little too messy. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at Toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people.
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Okay, that was kind of like the appetizer. Jaden Higgins was, and Tet, that was this.
Not Tet, T-Mac.
Oh no, yeah, Tetaroa.
Yes,
T-Mac.
Yes,
sorry, friend of the show. We can't.
Yeah, that's like calling me like my
real name, which we're not going to right now.
Yeah,
but this guy, we are going to say his full name because this is what people want. This is what they're tuning in for. Emeka Egbuka, JJ.
Yeah, look.
Talk about a roller coaster season last year.
I'll give you the low, median, and high comps. The low comp is Kendall Wright, who he actually does comp relatively favorable to. You can go look at Kendall Wright's rookie season numbers. They're not as bad as you think. Median, Jordan Addison, which I think is probably fair. High end is DeAndre Hopkins, right? So he just becomes a stud in a year in, year out wide receiver 1 to 2 in fantasy football. I looked into this because his season was so bizarre, Emeka Egbuka, where first 6 weeks of the year, he's like a wide receiver, easy wide receiver.
League winner, yeah.
Yeah, league winner. And then he's completely worthless from a fantasy perspective from then on out. There really are not any comps at all since 2011 of players who did what he did to start and then finish. The one that was closest was probably like Calvin Ridley. But it still doesn't come close to what happened with the Emeka Egbuka. But look, you can't just look at like, this set of games and this set of games. So you got to look at the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And over that bigger picture, Emeka Egbuka had a 1.75 yards per route run rate. He had a target share just under 24%. He had the second most first downs among this wide receiver class. There are 8 wide receivers within 3 points of Emeka Egbuka's year 2 score who had yards per route runs as rookies above 1.6. Those 8 wide receivers are A-Rob, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Chase Claypool, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashee Rice, and Zay Flowers. So there's a lot of good surrounding Emeka Egbuka from a comp perspective and what we've seen historically. I'm still in. Like, I think he's good. I don't think he's a screaming value in Dynasty because he's ranked pretty high in Dynasty, right? Yeah. But I would take him over Rome Odunze in Dynasty right now.
Rome Odunze had a teammate that is like the opposite. He ended on a high note, and that's Luther Burden.
Yeah, look, you guys know that I'm a big Luther Burden guy. His low comp was Rashad Bateman, median Brandon Cooks, high was Jackson Smith and Jigba. That high comp, though, the similarity isn't like absurdly good. The one thing I'll say, though, is that a lot of his comps are just very solid. They're like in that Brandon Cooks type range, right? Where it's just like Brandon Cooks was a wide receiver too for a lot of his career, like a very, very strong career from a fantasy perspective. But here's the real, like, this is just what's real. I talked about this on the mailbag episode, but he failed to reach a 70% target or route share in a single game last year. He averaged 8.6 PPR points per game. Only 20 wide receivers with fewer than 10 PPR points per game as rookies in the year 2 model went on to score 14 or more PPR points in years 2, 3, or 4, right? So there's not a ton of precedent for this kind of profile. With that being said, his yards per route run was 2.69, third best among wide receivers with 100 or more routes behind OBJ and Martavis Bryant. You just have to do some projecting with Luther Burden, period. End of story. You have to say to yourself, how did he look as a prospect? Did we think that he could be more than a slot guy? I did. I loved his profile, right? Because he had that crazy peak as a sophomore. And then you have to just project and say, I trust this scheme. I trust this offense. And there's a chance that DJ Moore is no longer on the Bears, as we talked about earlier. So I'm still bullish on Luther Burden. You can see his comps there. It's not all butterflies and rainbows. You have to take a chance. Sometimes you got to take a chance in Dynasty. It's not going to work out every time, but if you're at least thoughtful about it, it'll work out more often than not.
Ben Johnson was at the podium at the Combine saying he can't wait to see what Burden and Colston Loveland do with a full year.
Colston Loveland is a stud. Period. Yes. I can go out. I will stand on that and say I feel way more comfortable about Colston Loveland at his position than Luther Burden at his, only because I think Colston Loveland is that good. It has nothing to do with Luther Burden. It's just there's more variant. Colston Loveland, I think, is a legit bona fide stud.
I would just say any sort of positive speak that comes out of Ben Johnson regarding Luther Burden, I'm here for, because it was like kind of the opposite at the beginning of last year.
To me, I really truly think that it was a match made. Like, this is where landing spot matters a lot. I don't know if Luther Burden's doing this in another spot, but I think that Ben Johnson's offensive scheme in mind and being able to scheme guys open the way that he does, on top of his kind of like no nonsense mentality, I think is good for Burden, who, people I don't know Burden personally, but people questioned his off the field stuff entering the league and whether, but like, it seems like the match has really, really been there between Johnson and Burden. And that's what gets me excited too.
Okay. You might not be so excited about the next guy if you drafted him with any sort of high draft pick in last year's drafts. It's Matthew Golden.
Yeah, so his low, I'll be honest, okay. Golden's like high, like best comps are pretty rough. KJ Hamler is the low one here. Median is Ricky Pearsall. High end is Devontae Adams. So he did get Adams similar to Jaden Higgins, which makes sense because Higgins entering the league didn't have, like, if you look at Higgins and his he had 96.1 with Devontae Adams and Matthew Golden's at 95.8. So relatively similar. And part of that is because Matthew Golden was overdrafted by according to the Zap model, where he went. Jaden Higgins was kind of neutral, just kind of like, yeah, he's fine. And so their Zap scores weren't that different. And then, Golden was a worse producer in year one. But that's why you're getting a similar comp there, because the year one numbers aren't doing that much work for Jaden Higgins. Not like he went off, as a first year player. You do have to remember that last year, Matthew Golden entered as an overrated prospect. There were reasons to believe that it might not be the biggest deal in the world, but his production profile was lacking. And, there's a lot of recency bias going on with how he finished his season versus how good he actually was. And if you look at history now and where we're at, among all year two wide receivers who failed to reach 7 PPR points per game as rookies, so Golden was at 5.3, only 7 scored 14 or more PPR points per game in years 2, 3, and 4. 2 of those guys were Randall Cobb and Chris Godwin, who had elite yards per out runs as rookies, right? They just weren't seeing the volume. And then the other guys, they weren't players that we really thought of as year in, year out, studs in fantasy football. His 1.35 yards per out run rate, not good, but not the worst that we've seen. My biggest question though, because I think that when you match his low points per game and for a rookie, a relatively okay enough, it's not good, but 1.35 yards per out run, that just tells you why didn't they use him more, And you could sit there and say, well, they have all this. The competition was hurt for a lot of the year, whether it be Christian Watson or Jaden Reed. I'm very concerned about Matthew Golden's profile. If you want to buy in, sure. It's not going to burn your dynasty rosters, but this is the kind of player that if you can sell for a reasonable price, I think it's a decent thing to do. Just
tell whoever you're selling to that he scored a touchdown in the playoffs. So you never know.
I mean, he had a good playoff game. Yeah. I think that he's capable of those spiked weeks still. I just don't know if we're going to see the consistency, especially within that offense. That's my fear. I know that me saying that he's a sell, if week one comes around and he has a 105-yard game on 6 catches and a couple scores or something, I'll hear it. But I just don't think that's going to be the thing that we see week in and week out from a player of this archetype.
Okay, speaking of archetype, we've got a weird one with this one. Travis Hunter.
Yeah, low end Tavon Austin, median end Quentin Johnston, high end Alshon Jeffrey. Look, the Zap model. Do you remember the conversations I had with people last year about Travis Hunter's analytical profile and it just wasn't there? But I excused it, and this is why I'm never going to do something like this again, where I made way too many excuses.
Where there might not be something like this again.
There's not going to. That's why I didn't know what to do. And that's why even in the guide, whenever I rank these guys, if you read the blurbs, it's play it safe with Tedero McMillan, or if you want to really shoot for the moon, go with Travis Hunter. But there were questions about his profile. Now, I thought before I even called him a buy right before he got hurt, right? And I thought he was going to take over as their wide receiver one in that offense during the second half of the year. And then he obviously got hurt, and that led to them not only Parker Washington emerging as a legit threat, but them trading for Jacoby Myers and signing him. So now situationally, you have 3 really good wide receivers in Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, and Jacoby Myers. And there's already all this stuff going on about him playing more corner next year. His 1.32 yards per out run wasn't that great. Even one of the arguments for Travis Hunter was that he was so good at wide receiver that when he's on the field, they'll just hyper target him when he is on the field. He had a 20% targets per out run rate this past year. That's not special. Like I said earlier, Luther Burden was at 25%. So I am very concerned. I mean, I had Travis Hunter as a sell a month ago on the sell candidates episode. These last 2 guys, I both had sells. I don't know what the market's saying about Hunter right now, but I am definitely concerned about him in fantasy football. There's no doubt.
And again, if you go back and look, people still cling to that last game he had before he got hurt. If you go back and look at where those catches happened, it was in garbage time.
A lot of it was garbage time, yeah.
Yeah, and
there were some plays in that game that were pretty great, but yeah, I mean,
he's an athlete. He's a freak of nature when it comes to playing 2 positions. If the main position,
but look, if he were a full-time wide receiver,
yeah,
obviously his dynasty stock would rise right? He would probably still be somewhat of a sell because of that, like thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
Because I just don't think there's enough evidence right now analytically that tells us that Travis Hunter is a special talent or a special player. There's far more evidence of Luther Burden, of Emeka Ibuka, of obviously Tedero McMillan, than there is Travis Hunter. So if he were playing full-time wide receiver, and if he were hypothetically being ranked between Emeka Ibuka and Luther Burden in Dynasty, I'd call him a sell then too. I mean, that's all straw man. I have no idea exactly where he would be ranked and such, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's enough evidence of like this looking more negative than positive, moving forward.
Good stuff, JJ. That will wrap up the year 2 journey comps for wide receivers. And again, we're going to have lots more info in the prospect guide, he said. So we will. That was an accidental click.
Yeah, you're just getting so hyped to move on.
Yeah, we're ending it. But the year 2 prospect guide, we have year 2 prospects, we have rookies in the prospect guide, we have dynasty rankings, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing that.
Clear.
Yes, rookie draft rankings.
Startup rankings are all on the Patreon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. Also, you can't. I don't think you could hear it, but whatever I said triggered Alexa in the family room, and they were just like, it's blaring. It was like talking about something. I don't know what it was. So it was like getting me off kilter. But yeah, let's wrap this up, JJ. Again, special thanks to for DraftKings, to the early best ball stuff going on right now. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, I'm excited for the combine, and we'll talk more combine on the show. Basically, next week is just a combine week for analysis. With late round. You're
going to be just hold in on Saturday.
I am. I will be around. I'll be on social. I'll be in the Discord talking combine.
Good stuff. Can't wait for it. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, for leaving comments. Again, it's an interactive show, so feel free to leave some feedback, and we'll see you next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Peace.
You know how it's never really about where you're going, it's about who you're going with? The right people can turn any drive into a great memory. That's something Toyota really believes. They design vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who make plans happen and bring everyone together. Inside, everything's built with passengers in mind. Comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that actually works so everyone can relax and enjoy the ride. There's room for the people, room for the stuff, and room for the moments that happen along the way. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at Toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people. Wasabi is purpose-built to free your business from skyrocketing storage costs and fees. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. Check out Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals. Wasabi, driving innovation in data storage for up to 80% less than market competition. Try for free at wasabi.com. Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage, proud partner of iHeart Podcast Network.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.